What's up, guys, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Towering Titan podcast, a new flesh and blood podcast hosted by myself, and we're going to be touching in with different members from the FaB community. We're going to be talking to competitive players, casual players, collectors, absolutely everyone. And today I am joined by the wonderful Semper, or Liam, depending on how well you know him, depends on what you can call him. So how are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for being here. So if anyone's wondering who the bloody hell are you and who the bloody hell is Semper, we got onto that in a minute, do not worry. But before we get to that, we'll kind of quickly go through what on earth is the Towering Titan podcast. Flesh and Blood is kind of getting out there now. I think about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I had people saying to me, what on earth is this game? What on earth is Flesh and Blood? Never heard of it. Is it even a game? Is it going to be a dead game? All those kind of questions come up. I feel like there's enough information out there now about Flesh and Blood. I've got lots of people saying, hey, I've played the game. It's great. It's amazing. So people know what that is now. But what's the Towering Titan podcast? Well, I'm going to quickly kind of wrap it up for you so you know exactly what you're going to be getting here on this podcast, whether you're watching it or whether you're listening in through audio. It's going to be a bi-weekly podcast, meaning it's going to come out every 2 weeks. It's going to be covering everything. This is going to be focused on just competitive. It's not going to be focused just on casual stuff. It's going to be literally across the board. Today we're talking about kind of speculating about future sets based on some lore stuff out there and all bits and bobs about it. Mainly, the main focus here is just kind of having fun, chilling out and having fun in the FaB community. And then, like I said, we're going to be touching with members community. I'd love to get different guests on, some from over the pond in the US, some from maybe even in New Zealand, and also people in the UK, talking about maybe, like I said, competitive events, talking to winners, talking to content creators, people from around the world who are involved in this, as I'm starting to learn a really amazing community. And then, obviously, if you are watching on Twitch or YouTube, it is streamed on Twitch. I will just get this out there now because I don't want people to start claiming that I didn't tell you this. It's not live, I'm afraid. I'd love to make it live at one point on Twitch, but there's a lot of production stuff that I want to get across in the podcast. And it just makes it easier if I have a day of post-production to get the podcast up there. But once you've watched it on Twitch, it will be available on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere where you get an audio podcast. But back to myself and Semper. So I found Flesh and Blood about 7-8 months ago. And since then, haven't really stopped thinking about it, playing it, dreaming it, just everything like that. And Semper's a little bit newer to the game than myself. I'm a member of my Discord. He's becoming a very competitive player, shall we say, over the last couple of months, picking the game up quickly. But I don't need to explain who he is. Semper, just tell us about yourself. Tell us a bit about your card game history, buddy, and why you love FaB.
So, obviously, I'm Semper, and actual name's Liam. Then it doesn't matter which one you call me. My card game experience started probably when I was very young, when I started collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I know you don't like Yu-Gi-Oh, Woody.
Just too much text. There's way too much text on the cards. That's my only issue.
And then as I grew older, I wanted to compete, but I was playing on team games and work was stopping me from doing that. So card games allowed me to play on my own and could still compete. So I went into Hearthstone, another game that you don't like, Woody. Then we went into Gwent, where Gwent was my real card game that I really competed in. And did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? Probably not. Could I have done it? Maybe, but I fell in love with the game. Then about 5 weeks ago, you, Woody, introduced me to Flesh and Blood, and I've literally been breathing it in ever since, dreaming about it and everything. Yeah. I'm addicted. The game's great.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. So like you said, you got a nice kind of contrast of a little bit of paper with that game that I can't remember what it's called now, and then also some digital stuff as well. And I'm kind of similar. I've got more of a paper background. Played a lot of Dragon Ball Super card game. Played a lot of Magic the Gathering. I even played Warhammer Champions, if anyone remembers that game. That's kind of cool until it just died. So I played lots and lots of paper card games, played a few digital card games as well. I've never really competed really hard in digital card games, more paper card games. And then, FaB kind of found me through someone else who I know through streaming and on online card games called Zach or Gravecrawler. And they were like, look, you got to check this game out. It's great. And ever since then, I've been absorbing in, just sucking it in. It's been such a great game. But I don't want to sit here and this isn't a salesman show where we're trying to sell you FaB. This is us actually trying to talk about the game. So that's kind of us, who we are, and what we can expect going forwards. But I've got to ask questions. Everyone who comes on this show is going to have to be asked a question. What is your favourite Flesh and Blood card?
So I prepared 2 answers for this question. Ooh, so I prepared my gameplay answer and my aesthetic looking answer.
Okay.
My gameplay is Soul Reaping. I just love the way it fits into chain. It allows you to the variance on that card, allowing you to create resources and put in stuff into your banish zone to allow you to play it further on. Aesthetically looking, it's got to be Blazing Ether. I've got it in foil. You know me, I love dragons. The 2 dragons and the artwork's absolutely glorious.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very pretty looking card. I mean, if anyone wants to know mine, clues in the kind of title of the podcast, really. So I don't need to say any more than that. So we'll just leave that there, shall we? But we've got a couple of topics today we're going to go over. The main way these podcasts are going to work is they're going to kind of mainly 2 topics, and sometimes we have a little bit of fun part at the end, mainly when there's card reveals coming up or anything like that. We can kind of have a bit more fun around some quizzes or speculations and some guessing, shall we say, have like a little kind of game show thing and keep a tally of scores. But the first topic we're going to go on to is competitive Flesh and Blood. And the reason I wanted to touch on this was because I feel like it's something that's really starting to gain momentum. When I picked up the game several months back now, it was just not a thing. Like, it just, you spoke about it and it was like, hey, COVID's still a thing, so competitive Flesh and Blood isn't a thing. When I first picked the game up, a lot of people were playing through TTS and there was lots of Discord interactions. And there was lots of kind of competitive events going on there. But I believe LSS were always very grounded on the fact that, hey, Flesh and Blood, it's called Flesh and Blood because you want to play in Flesh and Blood. So we want you to have the competitive scene in Flesh and Blood. That's what is nothing at the moment. However, that's really changed over the last 4 weeks. There's been big announcements for the US, big announcements for Australia and New Zealand, and we're from the UK, and the UK is starting to catch up with those big announcements. So first of all, the big one was in the US, right? It had the calling announcements in the US, 4 different calling events, and the national event was just bang. There you go. Have that. Eat those apples right there. And they were absolutely massive events. So I'm just going to throw up on the screen now for you guys that you can see the calling USA, the calling US. And this, so what really breaks down the calling US is there's 4 different callings. Each calling offers a $10,000 prize pool. Now, the thing to know about calling events are they are open. So anyone can, I don't know if they're capped at a certain number. I believe tickets can sell out. But anyone can basically call up or go online and book their ticket, pay their fee, get into the event, done. There's no qualification spec to get there. And these calling events are effectively like the new take on Magic the Gathering Grand Prix, if anyone remembers those. The big in-person massive events that kind of got everyone together. They have kind of these semi-competitive side events going there. They got retailers there. They got events going there. They got production going there. It's just a massive, amazing event that I think everyone in the Flesh and Blood wants to be part of. And they're in the US, like I said, 4 of those, as well as the big nationals, bringing a $50,000 prize pool to the nationals. Now, at the moment, as far as I know, and I may be corrected on this, the US is the only one that's had the big announcement going on with it. And the UK, where we are, has had Road to Nationals announced, which is another way to qualify for the Nationals. So what I kind of wanted to chat to, or chat to you about, should we say, Semper, is what do you think of the setup? We've had a chance to kind of read over what the US is. We haven't had the calling announced in the UK yet, but we can pretty much take, well, that's what it is in the US. It's pretty much going to translate across, right? The main thing that's going to change is the prize fee is not going to be in dollars, it's going to be in pound sterling. Other than that, most of it's going to sit still. But what do you think to the setup? What do you think to this big kind of event with these productions and everything like that? Do you think it's a little bit overambitious, or do you think it's exactly what the game needs?
So, as someone that didn't do Magic the Gathering, so I'm an outsider looking in, I think the setup's actually really good. So you have the true competitive players competing for the PTI and the money and the gold cofoils, but then it allows the casual player to turn up and still enjoy themselves at the side events. So obviously they'll be, I think, is it $50 to enter the callings main event, and then the side events will be a little bit less, which allows everyone to compete because they're also well spread out, right? You've got East Coast, West Coast, and is it one in Texas, one in Cincinnati?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so they're quite well spread out. I also like the fact that they're doing the Orlando. They're doing calling and Road to Nationals at the same event.
yeah.
I think that's really interesting. But the question I have, I don't think there's an answer in that, is can you play in both?
What you mean, the Road to Nationals and the calling?
Yeah, so it's the US national event and the calling at the same time. So are you allowed to play in both?
I'm not 100% sure, actually. I'm not 100% sure how that will go down. Maybe it's, I would imagine not. I'd imagine that saying that, I mean, is it literally happening over the same days, or is it a case in the same week and the calling's happening first and then the US Nationals happening a few days later? Or I'm not 100% sure on that, because obviously the calling is a way of qualifying, right, for the higher events, the nationals and things like that. So I'd imagine there'll be a way of qualifying for that there. So bring it back to the UK, because I don't want to. Obviously, we're based in the UK, and a lot of people listening to this will be like, "Hey, we get loads of info about the US stuff. What about the UK? We have got nothing to bring you. There's no exclusive stuff here. LSS don't even know we're recording this podcast, but there's no exclusive stuff to bring you about announcement for the calling UK. But if there was, say, an announcement coming up in the coming weeks for the UK, Semper, where do you think it'll be hosted? Obviously, the obvious place is London, but do you think they'll stick with that, or do you think they'll try and go more Midlands, or like, yeah? How do you think, where do you think it's going to be hosted in the UK?
I mean, there could be a case where they do what they're doing with Orlando and put our nationals and the calling at the same time, at the same event, which then would probably make it London. But as a neutral ground, maybe Birmingham's probably the best, because it's pretty much bang in the middle of the country for everyone to travel to.
Yeah. It's various reasons. I think Birmingham's actually a better shout. Yes, I live right on the south coast, so for me it's further to travel than London. But one, it's incredibly cheaper. Two, you have the NEC, which is a massive arena to host this kind of event in. And three, like you said, it's literally, if you threw a dart into the middle of the UK, Birmingham is pretty much bang in the middle of the UK. Whether you come from Wales, from Scotland, it's pretty much around that centre point. So yeah, I would say, and I would imagine Birmingham would be a really, really good shout for that. And I'm hoping, I'm excited that they do announce it soon. Obviously, as you said, you played in lots of digital events. How do you think this compares to digital events? Obviously, you played in events for like the likes of CDPR, and CDPR in the first season of Gwent, of the competitive season, put on these big glamorous kind of thematic events, right? How do you think these are sounding in comparison to what you've experienced in the past from a competitive scene?
I actually think this is going to be a lot better, because the Gwent events were just 8 players travelled, and that was it. It was just all a broadcast at then. There was no esports isn't without the people watching. It's not the same at all. And as someone that's gone and watched esports events, and I'm not played in a LAN tournament, but I've played in a kind of similar setting, there's nothing better than having spectators and people talking about your game, or the game that's just been live streamed, or the main event and stuff. So I think this is going to be a really good way to do it. Going to really enjoy it.
Yeah. Now, I only ever attended one Magic Grand Prix. I didn't attend any more than that. And it's the best way to describe it to someone is it's a convention. It's a convention as much as it is a competitive event. It's not like you went to a competitive poker event where everyone's playing poker on the tables and it's all kind of quiet around the outside where you're watching them just play cards. There is a full-on kind of, hey, there's some pop-up stores over there. There's these side events. So there's people just going, hey, let's go play a random game of CC, sat down here now and have a beer with it. Like, it's a real social event. And that's why I think that's why LSS have smashed it out of the park with the announcement of these. Obviously, on paper, they sound amazing. They've been executed in New Zealand and Australia. However, they've still been limited with restrictions based under the world pandemic. But as it were kind of coming out there now, it'd be great to see how these actually fall into place, kind of land in, no pun intended, in the flesh and blood. Now, what I'm really excited by is the production value. Like, there's a big emphasis. If you read on the website, there's a really big emphasis on the fact that this will be a full streamed production on Twitch with feature tables, with casting, and that's a great way of, like, in the US calling is going to have some of the most competitive and highest tier players from around the world competing in those and the nationals. I can't fly over to the States to watch them play, but I can watch it on Twitch, and I can get that feedback from these amazing casters, which again is, this isn't a I hate Magic club, right? But it's where Magic kind of dropped the ball on that competitive scene. They lost that kind of paper feel and went for the MTGA route, which hasn't worked for them clearly because they've cancelled that. So that's what really excites me, is as someone, I would be honest and say I'm not probably as competitive as you. I don't mean that in terms of I don't want to win as much. I know you're a very, very competitive player. I love the production side of things. I love the kind of all that stuff. I love kind of really diving into the casting side of things. And I just really interested to see how it comes across as a kind of production as well as a competitive event. But it's carry on.
I think one of the most important parts about the production is it's not even just going to be people being able to watch, and it's the analysis part of it, getting the top players in the game that aren't playing in that event to dissect certain turns or approaches that people are taking, so other people can then learn and maybe want to take this approach in the future.
Yeah, it's actually where I feel, and I know you said I hated the game earlier, it's actually where I feel Hearthstone done it really well. In terms of an event like that is as much a marketing event as it is a competitive event for current players. In terms of you're always going to have new eyes on your game at that point. And if you can offer that bridge that's kind of breaking down the deep analysis for people who have got 1,000 hours playing your game in person, but can also offer that bridge to cross over for new players to understand who've got 10 hours in your game, that's where you're absolutely going to nail it. Because you're going to really suck them in and get that kind of dream across of, oh, wait a minute, next year I could be that person. Anyone can make it to these nationals. All I need to do is I need to learn the game. I need to build my stuff. I need to get to my armory events, and I need to get going on to my skirmishes, and then obviously the callings, road to nationals, and anyone can make it. And I think that's what LSS has been very clear with, right? That this isn't the open pathway. Basically, anyone can. I believe they call it pathway to greatness. I'm pretty sure that's what they call it. Pathway to greatness, meaning that you literally, there's an open path, anyone can take it. And yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how that comes across. But it's exciting. I'm genuinely super excited to see where competitive Flash and Blood goes. And I hope to, on this show, have especially people from the UK on winners from Road to National events, get them on here, talk to them. I want to talk to them for their deck. I want to break down their deck and all that kind of stuff. Get Semper on here. We're both attending a couple of Road to Nationals, right? You're attending 2, I believe. I'm attending 2.
Yes.
And so, we'll share our experiences on here with them. We'll definitely have you back on here for that episode to kind of share what it was like going to them, how it was organised, and how it felt, and everything like that. Which takes us on to topic 2, which is a bit more kind of lighthearted and a bit of fun. So going into about a weekend ago, or last weekend, I should say, because my English is absolutely awful. Kingdoms was the next set, right? That's all everyone said. Kingdoms is the next set. Kingdom's coming out. It's going to be Kingdom. It's LSS Kingdom. This is Kingdom. That's Kingdom. Don't worry, Kingdom's the next one. We've had the core stuff now. Kingdom's coming. And guess what? It's not Kingdom. It's not Kingdom. Currently on the website, there is a placeholder for Tales of Aria is the next set. There's a placeholder you can't click on. It activates, I believe, on the 28th of July. What we talking about? It's rumoured to launch at the end of September. I believe I read correctly. And this all came from a kind of magazine cover leak findage thing on Google, where people found a magazine cover and it had a Ranger style character on the front, and it had the titles Tales of Aria, the next set, and it had the end of September release date. And obviously you can imagine it. The Flesh and Blood community went a little bit bonkers for this. There's videos out there. There's everyone breaking down whatever it is. Now, what we're going to have a bit of fun now is we're going to kind of have a bit of fun. Firstly, talking about what Aria is. Talking about what we kind of hope to see from the set. And then we're going to put a prediction out there each for a class we think we will see in the set. Now, we heavily speculate a Ranger is coming because that was the image that was shown off. So we're going to both speak about what we think that Ranger class will be, but then we're going to kind of go on to our other class, what I think the other class might be. So yeah, Tales of Aria. Now, the Aria is called the Mystic Sanctuary. Now, to kind of give a little bit of background on this before we go into it, I'm just going to pop up on the screen for you now. You can see there's this is taken from the lore page on the website, which is you can find under Heroes when you go to Welcome the Wrath, and then Aria. I'm just going to quickly read out for the audio listeners the People of Aria paragraph, because the reason I've chose this part of everyone else is because we're talking about the classes, right? And that's obviously the People of Aria. So, the flow fuels everything that grows within Aria. The plants here thrive. Trees never stop producing fruit. Plants grow at a rapid pace, and the creatures are docile and tame. As a result, the people of Aria are free to pursue a more relaxed lifestyle, becoming musicians, performers, entertainment, or craftsmen. The people of Aria flock to the region's abundant taverns for drinks, stories, music, and entertainment, taking advantage of any opportunity to celebrate or in festivities. While many people settle in villages, some choose a nomadic lifestyle, travelling across the region. These nomads travel from village to village, pitching tents or sleeping beneath the stars. As they pass through the villages, they offer help or entertainment, and the villages provide them in return. Aria has no form of currency, as its people function on a simple bartering system based on an idea of equivalent exchange. A peaceful region abundant with natural resources, its people feel no need to hoard wealth, goods, or food, readily sharing their homes with others. So, kind of reading through that there, it's very much. Now, I'm just going to use this as to throw out there to some of the people who we know will be listening. It's very much like the whole kind of the Dryad people of Scoia'tael, right? If we're going back to the Witcher universe, it's that very much mystic sanctuary, as Aria is called. It's that almost there's an element of magic flowing beneath the surface there. It's very free. It's very relaxed. It's fun. It's if this was in the 60s, everyone would be called hippies. It's just that kind of lifestyle, right? So, firstly, Semper, knowing that that's the kind of the direction of Aria, are you excited for the set?
Yeah, because it has me intrigued into which way they're actually going to go with it. Because it's so peaceful, it's so tranquil. It's like, why would this ever be involved in a game of Flesh and Blood where it's a battle between two warriors?
Yep.
So I'm interested to see which way they go with it.
I'm exactly the same. It's like you've got Bravo, this masculine, hunky, sexy beast of a man, swinging a hammer over his head for 19 damage. You've got Dorinthia, who's just the most annoying idiot warrior in the world, but hey, she gets really big and strong. And you got Katsu constantly poking you with his little knives, and then all of a sudden you got this people who's like, hey, chill out, man, it's cool, don't worry, dude, like, it's gonna have a party. I'm really interested. There's not a single card released in Flesh and Blood that I can think to even question LSS's management and decision making on balance or design. And knowing that they're so good at doing that in the card in Flesh and Blood has me so excited to see how this such curveball setting is going to embed itself in the current game format. So, new Ranger. We knew the Ranger. Well, we say we knew. We've seen the picture of the Ranger. Do you want to start or should I start on what we think the Ranger might be?
I think you should go first for this one.
Okay, so I'm confident it's going to be Mystic Ranger. That's what I'm confident. It's called Mystic Sanctuary. I think it's going to be Mystic Ranger. I think we're going to have two in terms of Mystic Ranger. I think we have another Mystic something else that's already in the game, like maybe Mystic Guardian. I say that because there's lots of entertainment stuff going on, and the Guardian is effectively a ringleader right from the circus. So maybe Mystic Guardian, but anyway, back to the Mystic Ranger. I feel like there's going to be a Mystic Ranger, and I feel like there is. I know it says here that there is. Says it has no form of currency, as its people function on a simple bartering system based on the idea of equivalent exchange. I feel like the bartering system is going to come in somehow, and I have been thinking my little socks off about this, and I can't think how. I just feel like there'll be some kind of management to do with some form of magic or auras, shall we say. A little bit like Guardian in the Ranger. Almost something like, obviously the Ranger will place from the arsenal, but something like the ability will allow you to create these auras that will manipulate the arsenal even further, or something like that. I'm clutching at straws right now, but that's the direction I think it will go.
It's a really tough one on the direction it's going to go, because, like, for me, Range is really unique already in the way it plays. So it's like, are they going to go even more unique, or is it just literally going to be as simple as, like, do you like putting Light Ranger for an instance? I'm not quite sure. I do like the Mystic approach, though. You might have sold me on that, Woody.
I hope so. I just feel like there'll be something that I don't know. I've read through the whole section of Aria again. People are going to find this is completely available, completely free on the website. There will be a link if you're watching on YouTube. The link will be in the description below. And I've read through it all, and it's just this massive focus on freedom and entertainment and that. And it's just every now and then, it just like, so the opening sentence of the people of Aria, the flow fuels everything that grows within Aria, and it's just the flow. I feel like that flow movement or that flow sentence is almost going to be some form of, I don't want to say currency because they strictly say it has no form of currency, but that flow is going to act as some kind of resource in these characters. That's kind of where I'm going with that. But like I said, I'm probably clutching at straws a little bit.
It's definitely an interesting idea that you've brought, to be honest. Like, because the flow is like, it's kind of like the ambience of the whole place, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this like mythical energy is what's keeping everything in check, and the fact that everyone is so free.
Yeah.
So I don't know, could be interesting.
It's like the opposite of Ghostbusters 2, you know, the pink slime underneath the city. It's the complete opposite.
And there's the 80s reference.
But we know there's going to be four. Well, we say we know there's going to be four classes. What I should say as well, Aria, the Tales of Aria is a closed set. And what they mean by that is it's a set designed for pre-release, for sealed, for draft, all that kind of play. Compared to something like Crucible of War, which is a supplementary set. This is very much a complete set, much like what you got from Welcome to Wrath, Arcane Rising, and Monarch. So it's going to have what we'd expect would be 4 heroes based on what they've released in the past. So what other heroes are going to be? I would imagine, and this is not going to be my choice because this is cheating a little bit, but Bard is a thing. They've already pretty much confirmed Bard is a class coming to the game. I believe there was an infograph released a long time ago of like people kind of data mined or dug out that they found out these other classes that were coming. They just weren't here yet. Illusionist was one of them, and then obviously she came along. So I'd imagine Bard would definitely come in this set because it pretty much is set up for Bard. So I don't want to take that one because that's a bit boring. But let's talk about the other hero that's going to come. Have you got? You kick off first here. What other hero? Come on, be bonkers, smash it out the park, Seb. But don't.
So I went and read the whole thing like you did.
Yep.
And I decided to dive deep into the bottom half of this, and I think there might be like a new class called Shaman. So it could, obviously Shamans tend to use a lot of magic, and magic's quite well known in Aria. And then so maybe you can use like using spells to create creatures. Maybe you can go along the lines of Shamans tend to can like heal people, so maybe there's going to be like cards that like Sigil of Solace, but more Shaman-based classes. So maybe I was thinking maybe that's the route they would go down. Yeah,
I like that. I mean, I'm sure I've read somewhere as well. Someone else has speculated Shaman before this was even a thing. So yeah, no, Shaman's a fair shout. I also went down to the bottom of it where it says creatures. And similar to what you said, I would love to see, I think this would be very curveball, and I don't know how on earth it would be balanced, but I'd love to see some kind of summoner. So someone who doesn't actually fight, but their weapon is they effectively summon these different creatures, like these different tokens. And those tokens can play into, maybe you summon a defensive one for next turn to reduce damage, and then you build up, you charge up the flow to then summon a bigger, powerful one, a more powerful one that can attack, but maybe it can only be out for 2 turns and it's got to go back in its Pokeball or something. Like, I don't know, like maybe there's that's kind of like, just reading the creature section, it's what really kind of caught me off guard, because I was like, creatures, why are they specifying that there are 5 different creatures, or 5 different types of creatures in this area? Because we haven't got creatures anywhere else. Maybe there are other creatures in the lore, but in the actual game, we haven't got creatures anywhere else, right? So I was just intrigued to be like, but then it fits in with Shaman. Maybe Shaman, like you said, maybe Shaman could very much be a versatile class. It could be a summoner build, or it could have a very defensive control-like build, or it could be like some bonkers Kano build as well, where it just ends up throwing crap at you for fun, and you're just like, can I have a turn, please? Can I do something, please? I've not lost to a Kano at all, I promise. I'm not salty. So yeah, that was kind of what I went with Summoner. Do you think a Summoner class could work in the game?
I'm not. I think a Summoner class would be hard, but because it's kind of it's kind of not relating to your hero, but is. I think it really depends on how you make the weapon link it all together.
Yeah.
Because everyone can play as the weapon, and it's just how they make that weapon link in with the summoning kind of thing. I think if they can do that well and balance it well, then it could be a thing. I would like to see it.
Yeah, it could be interesting. It could be interesting. And then just mechanics. So overall mechanics of the class, of the set, like I said. We spoke about, obviously, what we think heroes will be. But for example, Monarch brought along the Banish Zone and the Charge of the Soul, right? That were the 2 main mechanics that came along with Monarch. Then other sets have obviously brought along different key mechanics. What mechanics do you think could happen from Aria? What mechanics do you think can stand out from Aria?
So I again went into the lore a little bit more, and I went with a elemental damage and heal kind of approach. So down the bottom of the lore, they talk about guardians being of elemental like stature, and maybe some, like say the shaman, linking it back, you can do spells that then, rather than inflicting arcane damage, it could be like damage, burn damage or frost damage, or like a nature thing could like heal for 2 if it hits for so much. So that's the approach I went down with the mechanics. Like, it's very unique to the place, so it kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yes, the whole. I've read the part about with the Guardians and all that, and having a almost like a spectral shield, but manipulable, right? So you can choose that it's going to be, maybe it's going to block, or it's going to damage, or it's going to cycle around. I feel like everything I've seen from LSS design on every card so far is they like giving players choices, right? They like giving players ownership of, well, this card's meant to do this, but if you want it to do this, by all means, go ahead and make it do that. And I feel like that will kind of very much play into Aria as well. I went down to the Folktales section, and there's a couple of things there, like Wishing Wells and the other world it speaks about, for example. And I feel like there may be a new resource management with these, for example. So, because effectively, the Soul and the Banish Zone are more resource management, right? They're just, the Banish Zone's a new deck, but you're punished by getting cards in there without dealing with blood debt. And if anyone's played Bolton, you'll know straight away, God, the guy's so hungry, he's card hungry. He's just eats all your cards so quickly, like just constantly feeding that Soul, and all of a sudden you can do these crazy bonkers turns with him when you feed that Soul. And I feel like that's going to be something they're going to want to do going forwards, because it adds that kind of unique element to that set. And I don't know how Wishing Wells would work, but just the term Wishing Well just sits quite nicely in the folktale kind of lore-y setting of the Mystic Sanctuary of Aria. So maybe a Wishing Well is something that you can kind of, you create these wishes and it builds up. So Wishing Well reads, if anyone's interested, hidden around Aria, Wishing Wells are almost impossible to find, though many have tried. Those who come across a Wishing Well usually find it by accident, but are well drawn to it by some unknown force. When drinking the water within, a person can make a wish but it may not always come true in the way they expect. So I could almost imagine it's kind of playing into something like Brutes, where you can build up this wishing well and then you can like roll a dice. And if you get 4 to 6, something happens. If you get 1 to 3, something else happens. Because it's kind of, you're making a wish, right? You're choosing to take that gamble. You're making a wish on the dice. Does it come off well? Does it not come off well? Like, I don't know. That's kind of the mechanic I went down. And I'm not so much saying that I would like to see that, because I would like to see how that's implemented, definitely. But that was kind of what I took away from what I saw and what I read.
So a more RNG approach.
Yeah, but so I feel like Brutes, because I hate RNG, as you know, I hate RNG in any card game. But I feel like Brutes are quite well balanced with that RNG in terms of they're really strong. And they can be incredibly strong. I said, well, they're strong, but they can be incredibly strong if the RNG goes their way, right? But then if it doesn't go their way, they're still pretty good. Like, you can still build them around the RNG. If a wishing well was kind of built with, it's not a must play, like it's not a winning condition, but there are ways of playing into it, and then like maybe the 1 to 3 does something else that you can manage with your deck building. Then if the RNG is manageable with how you build your deck, I mean, that's fine. If it's a case of, I've just lost because I didn't roll 4, 5, 6, then it could be a little bit more iffy. It's interesting to see. It's just making a wish, isn't it? It's the whole gameplay mechanic. Is like you're trying to make a wish to hope you get what you want. A little bit like what's the potion card? Special Brew, right? Where it's you roll the dice and you either like you gain life, you gain lots of life, you get little life, action points, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if it's kind of something along those lines. But yeah, Tales of Aria, exciting times, especially with the end of September coming around. And finally, it's not really a topic, but we, for those who didn't know, because this is on the website, so I should point this out there, but some people may not know this already, that Crucible of War did get a release date announcement. This happened a little while ago, so we're not going to spend ages talking about it, but Crucible of War is the supplementary set. For those who didn't know, Welcome to Wrath, Arcane Rising, Crucible of War, and Monarch were the kind of core Flesh and Blood experience, and then kind of the other sets are going to build on that. From what I've read and what I've seen and what I've heard, there's going to be around about 3 sets per year releasing, and they're going to kind of all tie in together. So it'll be Tales of Aria, another standalone set, a supplementary set should kind of bring that chapter together to then go on to the next one. Obviously, there's no rotation, but Crucible of War is, so it's releasing on the 30th of July. Is the first batch. The next batch is on the 30th of August, and then the final batch is on the 30th of September. That is all unlimited. The reason they're doing it over 3 sets, over 3 dates, is purely because, as people will know of Monarch, they struggled to get everything out. When they did, they had some printing issues. So I don't know, I have no information on how much is going to be available on the 30th of July, whether it's going to be a case of a couple of boxes per LGS or it's a couple of cases per LGS, no idea. But they are the release dates, which is good to know because Crucible War is an incredibly strong supplementary set, right? A lot of the competitive decks have staple cards from that set. So having them available before the competitive scene really kicks into gear is vital because the card prices, although they're coming down, they're still first edition prices, are still way too high on the Majestic level to what they should be when they're unlimited, right?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking from experience, I need obviously a few cards for my ninja deck. Fine Center, I believe the card is, but it's like £25 at the moment per one, and it's obviously it's not that strong, but it's a nice card to have in my deck. So obviously, once Unlimited comes out just before 2 weeks before my Road to National event, the first one, so it allows me to get that set. So yeah, I'm happy with it. The way they're releasing it anyway, because Monarch was a bit of a disaster, but.
Well, from what I read, they've got new printers and all that now, so that'll be good. And obviously, Tales of Aria, September as well, which would be interesting because they have, if it is the end of September, then they would have Crucible of War and this releasing at the same time, which would be a little bit odd. Obviously, Crucible of War is available beforehand as well. I may have read that wrong. I may have remember that wrong. It may be the end of October. It's either September or October that Tales of Aria is set to release to the world.
So,
sorry.
Tales of Aria it's getting premiered at Las Vegas, right? The calling.
It is, yes.
Is that early on in September? The date for that?
I can find that right now for you. But it's it's Las Vegas. September the 10th is Las Vegas calling. So we can see. There we go. So the Friday the 10th of September is Kingdom's world premiere, but this was announced before people found out about Tales of Aria and dug into it. Like I said, if you go to the article section on the Flesh and Blood website, they do have a grayed out Tales of Aria tab there that is just unlocking on the 28th of July. So there'll be more information for it then. And then the main premiere is on the 10th of September. And I would imagine that would be the first kind of pre-release event, right? It reads here, the world premiere will be sealed decks with 6 rounds of Swiss. The amazing prizes on offer based on your number of wins. The event is a perfect opportunity to start the calling weekend off on a high note, cracking first edition packs and connecting with others in the community in the Flesh and Blood through the common language of great games. So it's literally a pre-release event, much like LGS is. It'll be interesting to see if that kicks off the pre-release weekend, because what Magic used to do, which were really good, they used to do these events where they would tie in with like their big world events. So what I'd encourage is LGS to kind of put on the TV, stream the kind of world event, and they'd have these special promo cards that you would get by just turning up and playing in these kind of pre-release or these kind of sealed event tournaments. And they were a little bit more expensive. I believe they were like £25-30 entry at an LGS, but you got this. For example, I got Crucible of Worlds once from a Magic one. Crucible of Worlds card's worth like £75 now. So you got your money back on that promo card anyway. So it'd be interesting to go down that route. But if that's when the pre-release event weekend kicks off, that would be amazing, because I would love to get down to Mana. I would love to get playing in the pre-release, as well as having the stream on for the world premiere on in the background as well. I doubt that's when it would kick off, because the hence being it world premiere, right? So I'd imagine it kicks that weekend, and then the following weekend pre-release happens LGS, and then end of September it's available everywhere. That'd be cool if that's how they do it. But
that'd be definitely the most ideal situation. Yeah,
fingers crossed. But that's pretty much going to wrap us up. That's pretty much bang on time where we want to be with these shows, these episodes. Don't really want them much over about 45 minutes. So just kind of casual, chilled chats about the world of Flesh and Blood, right? Kind of talking about bits and bobs. Yes, so like I said, they are bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks, there will be a new episode up everywhere. I will be talking about what's coming up in the on Twitter, on social media, everywhere like that. Links to those are below. I'm going to be using my own social media for now, because I don't have time to run 2-3 different channels, to be honest. So if people end up liking the podcast, it ends up doing really well, then yes, I'll create its own channel and everything like that. But for now, I'm going to just kind of keep things through myself and that. And I'll be reaching out as well with kind of polls and questions and feedback with people to see what they want covered on the next episode. But as we're getting closer to these kind of competitive events, as we're getting closer to that kind of tab opening up on the FaB website for Tales of Aria, it'll be interesting to see what that is and chat more about that. But before we wrap up, I want to say a massive thank you to Semper.
Oh, thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's been great having you here, dude. It's been absolutely great having you here. And thank you to you guys for stopping by, whether you watched it on Twitch, whether you watched it on YouTube, or whether you just listened through any podcast service. I really, really appreciate it. This is the first episode, obviously. It's going to be a podcast that's going to grow over time. We're going to, maybe the first couple of episodes might be a little bit stumbly, because we're kind of finding our feet and what format we want to go with. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm excited to keep bringing you guys more and more as we go on. But yeah, that's going to wrap up, guys, from me and from Semper. Thank you very much for stopping by. Have a good one. Take care, stay safe, and be good. Until next time, goodbye.